have LaVone and Vanessa with us, who have been in the talent acquisition space for many years. With a passion for identifying and attracting top talent across a range of industries, both have built a reputation for being an expert in the art of sourcing and recruiting the best candidates for the job. Let's welcome both of them on 10 Minutes of Hiring Wisdom, where they are working for a company that's growing fast. Let's welcome LaVone and Vanessa on 10 Minutes of Hiring Wisdom. Hi guys, how are you doing, both of you, today?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, doing pretty well. Thanks for having me.
So LaVone and Vanessa, both of you have been with the company Cruise for a while. The company Cruise is growing and it's actively hiring. Can you tell us more about the company culture and what the company specifically does?
So I've been with Cruise a little bit over a year. We're an autonomous vehicle company with two arms at this point. Like our first is our ride sharing platform. So if you're in a city where Cruise operates right now, we're San Francisco, Phoenix, and actually just moved into Austin. You can actually hail one of our vehicles like you would any other ride sharing platform. The only difference is 9 times out of 10, there's not a driver in the car. So the ideal is to hopefully just provide transportation to the masses, and especially those who can't really afford it. So our goal is to hopefully get down to like $1 a mile.
Okay, Vanessa, do you have anything to add on that?
No, I think he laid it out pretty well. I could just maybe tell you like how I fit into that
Of course.
Spectrum. So I've been with Cruise for almost 2 years. I started out in a contractor capacity. So I specifically recruit for roles within commercial operations. So that is the org that allows us to hail a safe, efficient, and cost-effective fleet. So there's a lot of different orgs within that. So we have central operations, business development, delivery, customer success. Those are just like a few. And so I typically help support central operations. But right now we are growing so much, scaling. We're going to be deploying in new cities this year. Obviously can't share that quite yet. Not public news. But I get to kind of be on the forefront of helping build out and scale a lot of teams. So it's really exciting, especially, when I get a hire. I'm working with the hiring manager right now that, obviously I got to handpick and help hire myself. So I'm kind of helping build the teams that I'm supporting. And it's really fun to see. And I'll actually I booked a trip to San Francisco in July, so I'll actually get to go and ride in one of our cars. So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, that sounds absolutely amazing. Congratulations to both of you for your company doing so well. I think a follow-up question for me, for both of you, would be is when a company grows and starts growing, they tend to hire. Sometimes I think during the pandemic, we saw that a lot of companies made the mistake of overhiring because they were like, oh my God, our company's doing so well. We need a lot of people. But then when the reports came for the fiscal year, they realized that, okay, they're not making as much profits. So based on your opinion, based on your perspective, what does Cruise do to ensure that they hire the right amount of people that would produce beneficial results, but also those candidates can be retained even when the economy goes through turmoil?
Vanessa might be able to speak to this a little bit better. I wasn't with Cruise during the pandemic, but from my understanding, they did quite the opposite. Like they didn't really go into this massive hiring as an opportunity to really scale up. But they were pretty fiscally responsible. So now that things are kind of turning around, we did a lot of our hiring that probably should have happened during the pandemic last year. So as Vanessa probably sees, like we hired really heavily on like our engineering side last year, and now we're kind of switching over to our commercial operations side as we continue to scale. So I think they've been really good about understanding where we should be as far as like our fiscal responsibilities and our labor force. And I think, it's kind of proven that self now. We haven't done any layoffs as most tech companies are doing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. I wasn't with the company like right when the pandemic hit in 2020. So I'm not sure if we did any sort of initial layoffs. I know a lot of companies did just a slight bit. I'd have to defer to one of my partners who's been with the company for a while. But like through and through, we are doing and even now we're doing any and everything that we can to make sure we're not put in a position where we need to do that. We'll shift resources. Like I said, we're about, we'll lean other ways to make sure like we're keeping our people at the forefront of what's really important, and making sure that we do everything to keep them, which I think a lot of other companies could learn from. I do, just from my own knowledge, I'm always curious as to like who really like thought about the forecasting. Obviously, spending habits have changed so much over the last 4 years, and I think that really dictates and shifting, especially like in advertising spending, and we're not affected from that. We have so much funding, and we've been really, the only word that comes to mind is really thoughtful, and how we are approaching our hiring. I'm obviously not involved in some of those conversation when it comes to forecasting out what the next fiscal year is going to look like. But being a part of Cruise and the amount of like headcount we're seeing and openings, and we're taking the time to really hire the right people and get the right people in the seats. Like one of my managers, I don't know if I completely agree with this, but he says hire slow, fire fast. So he basically just says like really take the time to make sure the right person's in the seat, so you don't have to turn around and have to kind of repeat the cycle. We're not like, I don't think we're this company that's we're not trying to double and triple. We're trying to scale with thought and intention.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I love the fact that you guys are putting some thought into it, because at first it seems exciting to fill all the roles, but usually sometimes filling those roles with the wrong people can result in loss of time, loss of mental energy, but mostly loss of finances for the company itself as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. I think one of my favorite questions to ask for people in the recruitment space, talent space, is why talent? A lot of people that I've spoken with previously say that they fell into recruitment, they fell into sourcing. So what are both of your stories? Was it an active decision to go into recruitment sourcing, or was it something that you were like, oh, okay, I have these skills, I think I could be a good fit for this?
I'm definitely a victim of falling into talent acquisition. It wasn't anything planned for sure. I was in the fitness industry, doing pretty well, working for a larger franchise, and didn't want to be that guy. I was working late nights, had a young family, and I had a buddy of mine who was an engineer and introduced me to an agency, and it was kind of history from there. The agency was recruited heavily from like all the big tech companies, all the FAANG companies, and I did agency for maybe 2 years or so before I kind of got my first big tech job and realized that what I had always been doing along the way, just helping people. And I think that in the talent acquisition space kind of aligned really, really well. You don't think about it and say, like, really sit down, like you can really get caught up in the minutia of the job, but a lot of times you're helping people find their dream job, right? That provides for their families, that gives them the lifestyle that they can afford. So that concept of helping people really just resonated, and that's why I'm still in it, almost a decade or so later.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Lamont. What about you, Vanessa?
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of similar. I feel like you either fall, it's like either out of necessity, or you fall into it, or somebody hears something and it sounds appealing, so you just dive in, and it either ends up working or it doesn't. To me, I guess I was looking for work right out of college in 2012. I got started a lot later, probably later in my career than most people do. I finished college at 26, and I didn't get into recruiting until close to 30. So my story is a little different. I had been in the hospitality world for probably close to 10 years, and I needed to do something different. I always tell people, like, staffing is a great way just to get your foot in the door. Typically, they have the capacity, especially large structured organizations. They have the, training and development capacity to actually take you on and really kind of show you the ropes. Because, typically in-house they have expectations when you walk in the door. They're not going to, teach you how to do the job. It kind of blended a lot of different skills. I constantly like to be stimulated in probably doing 15 things at once. And I really love to, I think LaVone had said it, I think when you have like an empathetic heart or like a passion to give back and help people, and you can kind of combine that with like the ability to, like, there's a lot of, like I said, you can help support yourself and your family in this industry, but you can also, like I said, there's no better feeling than someone, reaching out and telling you, hey, I was able to, actually afford to, live in an apartment. I don't live in my car anymore. Like, honestly, having like stories like that, it doesn't happen as much in corporate recruiting. I'd say with the type of roles I hire for, but you get that a lot in the staffing industry. And to me, I'm always a proponent of like, as long as I like it, I'm going to keep doing it. And I still like it. The moment where I have to wake up and kind of force myself to log in and go to work, then I'll probably want to pivot and find something else. But I haven't gotten to that point yet.
Well, you both of your empathetic hearts and you're wanting to help people is very inspiring. I think every day on LinkedIn, you see a lot of people mentioning that, oh, a recruiter ghosted me, when they don't know the back work, the amount of work and the thought process that goes into actually hiring the right candidates. So I'm glad that recruiters, people in the talent acquisition space still exist like you, who are putting other people's worst in order to get their dream jobs. So last question for both of you. Both of you have been with Cruise for a while. Not a long time, but for you to understand the company culture. What is one thing, according to you, that a candidate could do to make themselves stand out if they're applying for a job for Cruise specifically?
To make themselves stand out. Applying online, I always tell all the candidates I speak with, I'm like, hey, if you see anything online, like, you should probably reach out to me or a recruiter first, right? The applications online get a lot of influx of candidates. Some of the applications we have 300 to 400 people for one role. So sometimes you'll get lost in just that mass amount of people. So to stand out, I really recommend building relationships with recruiters and sourcers across all companies. Like, even if you're not on the market, just being able to talk to them and understand the market, to make sure that you're, in a good place to position yourself when you are ready, I think it's probably the best thing to do. I've done it myself. I haven't really had to like be on the job search in a while, but usually when I have been, it's a quick phone call away. Like, it's not anything I don't have to apply. Like, I have these relationships kind of built around. So I really recommend that anybody in this tech space, because the tech world's really, really small once you're into it. But if you can build those relationships, then that's probably the best way to get yourself involved in an opportunity, as opposed to like mass applying on LinkedIn or Indeed or something like that.
What about you, Vanessa?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think sometimes it's almost a race to get to be the first person like seen. It feels like that sometimes because, a lot of our roles, we do get like a high influx of, I don't know, I sometimes work with roles that we have a high influx. Typically I'm brought in, like, I'm in a sourcing capacity. So I'm usually brought in when like there isn't, or we need to find a really a niche profile. That's usually like where my expertise comes in. But yeah, and similar to LaVone, I'd say like at least just getting to the point where you actually get an interview. Really knowing like your why, like, why do you want to work for Cruise? I think a lot of people don't really have like a good why. And I see that a lot with like feedback from hiring managers. They're like, oh, like, I'm not convinced, like, why does this person even want to change jobs? Or like, like, what is even like spurring them? Because people typically join us like because they have, there's some sort of like passion, or there's a reason why they want to be with Cruise. And to me is networking. I typically always post all the roles that I'm working on. I'm not trying to hide anything. I want to throw it out there because I want people to connect with me. I have several success stories even over the last 6 months of people just reaching out and, being really thoughtful in their messaging too. I'm typically more apt to respond to those messages versus a really blank hey, I'm interested in cruise. Can we talk for 15 minutes? It's very hard. It's like, I wish I could do that, but unfortunately, like, I have to have boundaries and I only have so much bandwidth and I have a job. So typically it's like, okay, if you send me something really, really specific, I typically do take time in my calendar to try to create those connections for people. And if you can get seen a little quicker, I think that makes a huge difference. And also, like, being at the end of the day, like, we're always trying to hire, like, diversity is at the forefront of our minds when it comes to talent. But I think, like, obviously you still need to have, a lot the qualifications that a manager is looking for. And so I do see a lot of people, unfortunately, trying to get into roles that they're not qualified for yet. That doesn't mean it's not going to be that way. And there's a lot of opportunities where they can get into the company and get that experience. But that's what I think is, like, the best way, at least to get that initial conversation. And then from there, a lot of it's up to them and how they show up. I do try to help prep candidates as much as possible, but because we have a lot of information, but it is, like I said, those are the things that I think can help you at least get in, at least initially get that first call and conversation.
Okay, no, two wonderful takeaways, LaVone. Thank you so much for sharing how connections are so important. Sometimes even the job applications have the person that posted the job, so you can directly even reach out to that person specifically. So that's a wonderful key takeaway. And thank you so much, Vanessa, for explaining why it's important to have the why written, because there's so many companies these days, so you need to have a company that you would be passionate about, because that's when you don't feel like you're going to work. That's when you feel like you're actually going to make a difference. So that's very important. But other than that, our time is up. It was a pleasure having both of you, learning from your experiences, your empathetic heart, and your wanting to help other people, especially in finding their dream job. Thank you so much for just making a difference in this world by helping people get their dream job and be happy in the career that they choose for themselves.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.